Hello and welcome to my channel, Penny Prepper. Today's video we're going to be discussing prison preps. Before we get started today, I'm going to ask that you slap that like button and subscribe if you're into emergency preparedness, the outdoors, and learning some new skills. Today we're going to be talking about prison and some of the ideas that you can learn from inmates on the inside to help you with prepping and preps in general. The first and most important rule, you're probably going to hear the term snitches get stitches. Well, this sort of rolls right into that. The first and most important rule of prison is to stay to yourself and to pay attention. When you first get into prison, you're going to go into something that's called processing. You're going to be in with a lot of other people who are either reincarcerated or coming in for the first time. And really, at that point is where you need to get into the right mentality. That's not going up to people asking them stuff about their crimes or trying to prove how tough you are, like a lot of people think that you're supposed to do. Really, the most important thing to do is just keep your mouth shut, listen to what people say, and do it. In the prepping community, we have a term for this. It's called gray man. Well, in a prison, unfortunately, you don't have the choice to be completely anonymous. They're going to know your name, your number, your charges, pretty much anything about you. So really, that's where it comes in handy to just be able to keep your mouth shut and don't go out of your way to ask too many questions. Try not to make friends. You're just there to basically get into process and get out. And then you get assigned a block. Now, the reason I say this, the whole gray man theory for prisoners is more so people can't size them up. They can't understand if, basically, they like to prey on the weaker people. So if they don't even pass you by because they can't get a read on you, then you should be pretty well off. Plus, this is the time where you're going to get the most quiet you're going to have for the duration of your stay. So once you go through processing, you're probably going to get assigned a block. And that's where you really start to, you don't need to make a name for yourself as much as the opposite. You need to make yourself be so blah that nobody really bats an eye at you. Eventually, you're going to start to want to change that, but in a different way. If you're fine with eating the food that they make in the prison, which is not that great, and you have somebody that can put money on your books for commissary, that's all well and great. There's no reason to do any of the upcoming preps that I talk about, but the biggest thing is bartering and having skills. Just like in an emergency, like a SHTF scenario, this is really where it ties into prepping. So also, when you get assigned to a regular block, that is also where you're going to realize that there is a hierarchy. There are cliques, there are gangs, literally. And you're going to notice that there's certain inmates who have more privileges because they've been there for a while. But one of the biggest things that you'll notice is inmates that have been there for a long time, they run off of respect. They don't care what your charge is. They don't care what affiliation you have. All they care about is they've been there for 30 years and they're still looking at about 40 maybe. And basically they're just trying to serve their time. They've seen riots. They've seen people get, the big poke. They've seen a lot of things, and those are the people that you want to try to talk to because they're not just going to flat out want stuff from you. They're more than willing a lot of times to show you wisdom and ways to not screw things up. And the reason why is because if you mess up, they know that that's going to fall down on the rest of the block, and they don't want that. And that's something where you can use that in prepping as well. When you have a mutual assistance group, there's a hierarchy, there's people that have lots of wisdom, people who were in the military. This is where a lot of this ties in. There's so many things in obscure lifestyles that really can tie into prepping or rank structures. Gangs are a great example. Their rank structure is similar to the way the military is with their rank. You have to go through a chain of command. Same within prison. You need to go through the chain of command for COs and sometimes even inmates. Once you get into general population and onto a block, you're going to notice that the rules are a lot more lax. The COs are a lot more laid back. Same with the inmates. But you're also going to notice like there's a rank structure. There's going to be people that get certain privileges. It all depends on the type of prison and the level it is. But basically, what you really want to do is give respect. Don't just give somebody a line of crap. And especially with the COs, the correctional officers, because if you start giving them a load of crap, I can guarantee you're probably going to miss rec time. You're going to miss phone calls. You're going to miss things that you would really like to have. In prison, we call that getting burnt. Basically, it happens when it's a way of informal punishment without actually writing somebody up and giving them either docs against their character for them trying to get out or something like that. A lot of inmates think that it's sort of a BS way of doing things, but it's that, or they could get written up, have an official file, and then when time for parole comes, they might not get it, or they could also get sent to the bucket depending on what exactly. All right, so I noticed that I'm going a little bit too much into detail on the whole prison side when I want to go more into the prepping side, because most of you are not going to go to prison, and if you do, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of prepping you can do inside prison to help yourself out. So let's get back to the main topic. That's going to be also being creative. That's a huge part of being in prison. If you're able to think outside of the box and be creative, that's where you can really set yourself apart from other inmates and actually have a tangible skill. A great example of this is going to be food. You can make so many different types of food in prison. It's ridiculous. You can make cheesecakes. You can make candy bars. It's crazy the things that inmates can make. But also getting stuff like commissary. You're going to be able to learn what you can live without because you can order TV, clothes, shoes, radios, different storage options, pens, paper, hygiene products, and extension cords. Now, why did I mention things like extension cords? Well, one of the things you can make inside a prison is called a stinger. Basically, what that is you take an extension cord, rip off the tip, and you take some nail clippers, wrap that in the wires, put that in water, plug it in, and it will heat up water. Now, again, why am I saying this? Well, if you are somewhere and there's an electricity running through the area, and maybe say you don't have access to a stove or you have to cook inside, well, that might be a great option to cook with. Now, again, I'm not showing you all how to make a stinger on this video because that takes a little bit of effort. If anybody wants to see that, please let me know. I will give it a try without trying to blow the fuses in my house. But really, that's what I mean. You need to be creative. You need to be able to come up with different ways of making things. I'm sure you've seen videos of inmates who put small fires or heat up their metal bunk bed where it's a thin sheet of metal that they lay on, and they actually rub off the paint and they fry stuff. You can fry Spam, stuff like that on the metal of your bunk. Now, granted, you're going to have to clean it afterwards, but still, nonetheless, that is creative, and it is a way nobody else is going to be able to fry Spam in prison except for you. So if you want to have somebody that wants to make really good rice and they need fried Spam, they're going to come to you. And it's something as easy as just sanding the paint off of your bunk and cooking on it and cleaning it afterwards. And you can trade that cooking for something. Also, something else creative that inmates do a lot of times is, I'll tell you what, they can turn ramen noodles into just about anything. Walking down any block in a prison, probably an hour or two prior to 5 o'clock, all you're going to hear is packets of ramen noodles being slammed against the concrete as they try to break them up to put into chi-chi, or put it into, they take bags, like chip bags, with the sort of foil on the inside. They'll put it in there, mash it up, let it dry out, and you can create like cake, like the hard part for cake. You can pretty much do anything with ramen noodles in prison. It's incredible. Other skills that you can learn in prison that you'd be able to take on the outside, think of it like this. After a scenario happens, you're going to have people who are in a community, and they're going to be people who want certain things that they can't typically get. Yes, you might be able to hunt, and yes, you may have medical care that you're able to give, and you know how to do that. But what if you don't have those skills? Well, that's where thinking out of the box comes in handy. Some things that you can learn in prison that you can take on the outside: tattooing, being able to do art. There's also hair maintenance and care. Now, again, some of these skills can get you in trouble on the inside, such as tattooing. That is an offense that you can actually get sent to the bucket for, depending. Same with messing with somebody's hair. A lot of times people will do that in other people's cells or in bathroom stalls where they know the COs won't typically go. And, well, I'll tell you what, if they catch you, that can be another offense. So it's one of those things where if you were to be in prison, learn what is allowed and what isn't. Also, asking a CO before you do it. It's important that if they say don't do it, you don't, because if they find you, they are going to hammer your butt to the wall with charges. So make sure you don't do that. So I guess a way that you could also take this into account is if there is a new government, or let's say martial law is implemented after an emergency. Well, learning all this stuff, learning the way things operate in prison is a great way to characterize that after a collapse or after there is a large-scale emergency and martial law is in place. Basically, the best way to think of it, even if you are in a community after things go down, knowing how to conduct yourself respectfully, learning a skill, being helpful to the community, but also keeping your mouth shut and staying out of trouble. That's really the whole premise of keeping your mouth shut and keeping your head down, is you don't want to get in trouble. When there's something going on, the COs aren't going to think of you. They're going to think of the guy that they've had issues with 20 times, and they see him running out of that area. They're going to pick him out, not you. They're not even going to... There's been times where I've had inmates on my block for 6 months. I walked up to them and I said, "When did you get here?" They look at me and they go, "I got here 6 months ago." I'm like, "No, I worked over here for like a year now. I don't recognize you." And they're like, "Thank you, sir. Like, that's what I'm hoping for." I'm like, "All right, don't tell me your name. Go back to what you were doing." And some of those inmates, I still don't even know their names. 2 more, not professions, but things that you could utilize after a collapse. There's going to be a need for tutors and advisors or counselors. That's something that I've seen in prisons where people who have legal backgrounds, medical backgrounds, people who don't spell too great, they sometimes will enlist the help of other inmates to help them get better at things for when they get out. Yes, there is school and training inside, but having that extra bit of help in the off time is a great help to them. Plus, they can trade those skills for items. Also, physical trainers. Some inmates go in there not very buff. They want to get jacked up so they can stop getting hollered at by other inmates, or maybe say they know that they are going to get in a heap of trouble then they might try to bulk up so they can defend themselves. Alright, that's all we have for today's video. If there is anything you would like to see me talk about in the upcoming videos, please comment and let me know. Stay safe and stay prepared.